Hello. Welcome everyone to the third lecture of Data Analytics with Python. I will be your tutor for the day. As always, I am really excited. I am a little extra excited because for the first time in this lecture series, we will be working with data and some coding. We'll be working with something known as libraries, which is my true love in Python, to be very honest. We'll just dive into it, and to give you a gist about what all we will be doing into this entire lecture, we'll be understanding how libraries work, we'll be understanding how to import data, we'll be doing something known as exploratory analysis. Now under exploratory analysis, we have a lot of different functions which we might want to perform, and we'll work around with all of them in this lecture. As always, really excited. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. So the first thing that you might want to understand is something as library. So imagine libraries to be like, okay, to give you an example, let's say you had to go from your school to your home, and you had to, let's say get 20 books from the library because you were working on some project. Now you ask your friend to do something, and your friend transported all of those 20 books for you. You don't need to do it by yourself again because it is already done, right? In the same way, libraries are nothing but code blocks. Now, code blocks are a lot of codes which will perform a certain function for you, combined together. And now these code blocks are actually made in, are used like many times, and now they have been created in something as a library. So that whenever you want to perform a certain function, you don't have to write the entire complex code by yourself. You can use the code which is already written by someone else, add it in your library, add it in your notebook, and just use it. That's why data analytics in Python is really easy. So we'll understand how we work around with these libraries. For the first library that I will be introducing is pandas. Now pandas library is actually used for data manipulation and exploratory analysis majorly. We can create plots also, but let's see how we can work around with the same. So to add any library in your notebook, first you need to write import. That's when Jupyter will know that we are actually adding another library inside an entire file. So I've written Jupyter and I want to add pandas, so I'll write the name of the file and I write as. So I'll use pd to call pandas whenever I want. So in future, whenever I'm writing any code and I want to use the library pandas, I don't have to write the entire word pandas to tell Python that, boss, to do this, use pandas for me. I'll just write pd and Python will understand that, okay, the pd refers to pandas because AS is aliases. So we are shortening the name of pandas into pd. So you can write something else also, whatever you want, but the general rule of thumb is that we always use PD. Even when you will go on internet, you will see a lot of lectures, theories, books, whatever is written on pandas. Most of the time PD is used because it's a general consensus, because whenever you copy a certain code from the internet, it will have PD written. Right? The same will be working with all the files that you will have. Okay, the first file has been added. That is, the first code has been run successfully. Now the first thing that we need to do is add a file, and df stands for data frame. So I'm creating a data frame here, and I want to use pandas and I want to read CSV, right? So you remember we added a CSV file before that. So we'll write the code to add the CSV file in our Python is pd.read_csv, and in quotes we are actually going to write it. Now click on tab button, so this pop-up will come for you, and I'll see where is index, and I can click on index.csv, stop the quotes, then I'll close the bracket, that is parenthesis, I'll do shift enter. Now it has been added in our library, the notebook. Now let's say you want to get an output, you want to see how it looks like. I can say data frame, and it is printed for you. You can see the first 5 rows are shown here, and the last 5 rows are shown here. In between we have many rows, in which Python is like, we have some rows in between, and we are having a break here in through Python, because Python is not able to show everything just on our notebook along with this. So they have created another let's say a separate column for us, And we can see we have 6 columns, that is date, date time, cash type, card, money, and coffee name. These are the column names. And then we have 1653 rows. The row number starts from 0, ends at 1652. That means we have 1653 rows. So let's start working with something known as exploratory analysis now. Now, understand exploratory analysis as in you're going into a mall and you're trying to look forward through all the stores. You want to know the top floor of the mall. You want to know about all the stores which are on the ground floor. Let's say the third floor, fourth floor. In Python, imagine these to be like rows. You might want to understand what is happening in the first 5 rows. You might want to understand what is happening in the last 5 rows or last 10 rows. And you might want to understand how many rows and how many columns do we have. That will tell you how many stores do we have in each floor and how many floors do we have in total, right? I'm trying to relate it with the real life example so that you can understand what I'm going to do after this. So let's say I want to get the first 5 rows. I will write df.head, and you can see a data frame is there in front of us that contains the first 5 rows. If you want the first 10 rows, you can always write 10 inside these brackets, and then you can work around with the same. Let's say I want to get the top 50 rows. I'll get top 50. And you can see we have different types of transactions coming up. Most of the people are actually doing transactions using card, although some are there which are doing it through cash. I can see that date column is there. We have date time also. So date is basically useless because we have date anywhere in date and time, right? Under card, these are the card numbers. Sometimes the card number is not there, and that is only and only when we have cash. Of course, that happens. And coffee name, we can understand, okay, this is a transaction amount. So someone paid 38.7 for latte. Someone paid 38.7 for hot chocolate. And looking at the data set, I can understand that this data set is all about a coffee restaurant. Okay, so this is what exploratory analysis is all about. I actually started with 5 rows. I got through some 50 rows, and now I know what this data set is all about. Exploratory analysis will make you understand the data set before you start with descriptive statistics or prescriptive or any types of statistics or any type of machine learning or artificial intelligence model that you want to create inside your entire notebook. And now let's say you want to get the last 5 rows. For the same, we use tail and we get the last 5 rows. Let's say I want to get the shape. Okay, we can see that with tail and head we have parenthesis, but for shape we don't. And this is a general thing that you need to understand. Whenever we can enter a certain argument, there will be parenthesis at the end. But for shape, we just want to know the number of rows and number of columns. We have no authority over it. The number of columns will be the number of columns. We can't say don't count the first one. If we don't want to count the first one, we need to delete it in the first place. We cannot give any argument here. That's why we don't have any parentheses. And if I'm clicking here, you can see the shape of my data set is I have 1653 rows and I have 6 columns. I hope you were able to understand and relate to this parenthesis type, because if I'm writing 15 here, I can get 15, but shape will remain the same. We cannot give any argument with that, right? So I'll have 3 here for now. So, not much space is being utilized. Shift and enter to run the code. And then we can go around and we can also see the columns. Okay, let's say you want to get one particular column from the entire data set. Now, let's say I want to, let's say transaction type. Why cash type? What is the type of transaction that we are having in this entire data set? So we'll start with df, that is a data frame. So we are telling that boss index file got into data frame. Now this data frame, inside this we want to pull something out. And you need to start with square brackets, and you need to click on tab, and in Python the Jupyter notebook will automatically tell you what exactly do you need to add. So for me it is the cash type, so I click there, I'll stop it, and then let's say I want to see trans, I'll write in the next cell, tab, okay. I have no clue why my tab key stopped working. Transaction type, and you can see I have the transaction type now. The entire column is with me now. You can see the name of the column was cache type, that is the name is cache type. This is the length. What is the data type? This is the type of data. So it is an object. So whenever we have, let's say, non-numerical data, we always get an object type, but whenever we have numbers, we get numbers majorly. So instead of writing transaction type, we can also create transaction values. Let's try to understand how it will work. Transaction value. Now what will I write here? df, and inside df I'll be writing money. So I'll go here, enter, stop it, and then I'll write transaction underscore value. And you can see now I have something known as float here. Float stands for decimal type of data. So the name of this column is money, the length is 1653, and float stands for decimal data points. You can see that we have decimals here, right? We'll try to understand different types of data points after some time. But for now, this is how we can pull out some of the columns that we want to. And let's say I want to calculate the mean. This is something that will come up later, but I'm just telling you right now. The mean, the average transaction value that we are having is this then. See how easy it is when we are actually using Python. I can get anything. I can get median as well, just like that. It's very easy when we are working with Python. All we have to do is just change a name. So let's get zoomed out now. And the next thing that you might want to know is info. Yes. So let's say, yes, df.info. You can see we have 1653 entries. We have the rows starting from 0 till 1652. We have total of 6 columns, and there is no column that is having any null. So we have non-null count is basically 1464, and that is because for some transactions we don't have card number, right? This stands for card number. If the transaction is done by cash, we will not have card number, and we can see that most of the transactions are being done by card here. Very small number is actually like around 100, less than 100 to be honest, is through card. And data type is object. All of these are text values, and then we have decimal value. And you can see data types, only one type of data is actually float, and most of them are actually object. And you can see the memory which is being used by Python to load this entire data set inside our Python framework. Now let's say okay, we have a certain data set with us right now, right? Let's say you want to get a certain floor. What will you do now? And that's exactly when lock will come into picture. Now imagine floors to be like your rows, okay, and the number of stores that we have will be like columns. So for us, we have only 6 stores in the base, and we have a mall that is having 1700 floors. Okay, it's going to be a very big mall, but nevertheless, let's try to connect to the story. And if I'm doing df.lock0, I'm basically going to the ground floor. That's the first floor. And I can see on the ground floor, we had a transaction. This is the first row. In the first row, the date was this. The date time is this. Cash type is card. And card number is this. This is the transaction value that we had, 238.7. And the coffee which was ordered is latte. And just like that, let's say I want to go to the 10th one, I can write 9, and I can go ahead and I can get the 9th transaction. And you can verify it by actually going here, and let's say I will write 10 here. You can see this row is being asked right now, Americano with milk. Americano with milk, 33.8. You can see how we are able to get the exact one row that we wanted to get, right? Except that we have worked with most of the data types, but sometimes when we don't have, decimal places, we get integer, right? Except that I don't think there is anything that we need to learn. Although under exploratory analysis, you might also want to understand what is the data types that we have. So you don't need to always get the information to get what is the data type, but you can also write date types and you can get the entire information. This will be same: object, 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 float 64, and object. These are the data types that we have. So that would be it for this lecture. Although, I have written a couple of things which I want to teach you. I think that would be it for this lecture. In the next lecture, we'll be working with something known as descriptive statistics. And we'll try to group data sets, and we'll try to understand how we can get mean related to only one particular item. So I'll see you there. Thank you so much for joining for this lecture.